if you follow the process and work it with excellence, closing, the first pencil close is going to become quicker and simpler, and it's going to happen more and more. Okay, we talked about the sales process is the ultimate closing tool. Can I tell you something? I believe that with my whole heart and my whole might. When you do things right up front, when you spend this much time on the sales process, you spend this much time closing. In other words, if you follow the process and work it with excellence, closing, the first pencil close is going to become quicker and simpler, and it's going to happen more and more. But now this course isn't about that sales process though. It is all about presenting the numbers and overcoming those common objections we've all heard. Well, I want more for my trade, that payment's too high, I want a lower price. This course is all about presenting numbers well, overcoming those objections in first pencil and close, and if you have to, negotiating to reach a win-win agreement if we can't get a first pencil close. That's what you're going to learn in this course. That being said, it would be totally irresponsible of me not to go back and say, hey, what you've done before this matters. And that's the sales process. So the next few pages in your manual are all about the sales process. And today's topic, today's lesson is really about you sitting down with the video off, printing these pages and walking through each of these steps and thinking about how do they affect the outcome of the deal. Your customer, whether they buy or not, how much they're willing to pay, in other words, how much profit you can hold, and whether they leave completely satisfied. So some buyers will buy and leave grudgingly. They leave completely satisfied if they're on fire about you, if you become the car person or you just sold them one car. This is what determines that. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's the steps that we use at Automotive Sales Coach. And like I said, it's updated technology, it's updated techniques. We know the welcome step used to be called the meet and greet and stuff like that. Welcome, making them feel comfortable is all what we're about. What happens when you do that with excellence, and what happens when you shortcut to your numbers, right? The understand goal step. That's about learning what your buyer wants, why they want it, who they are. Listening to your buyer's story, to have influence with our buyers, to have them like and trust us, to build that relationship. We have to seek first to understand, then to be understood. What happens when you do that with excellence? What happens when you shortcut that, right? The log step. We've moved the log step earlier in the sale. We're sitting at our desk understanding anyway. Why not take a minute and get them logged in? And as we log them in, can we learn more about them? What happens if we do that with excellence? What happens if we shortcut? What about the silent appraisal? For the 49 to 51% of the people that have a trade, we've done the silent appraisal for decades. We've moved it up. Today's technology says, get that out of the way. Take that off the buyer's mind. Speed up your process. Let your manager appraise the car or your used car manager while you're out picking a car instead of afterwards and delaying or lengthening the sale, the things that customers hate. Now, what happens when you do a silent appraisal with excellence? What happens when you shortcut it, right? How about this? Suggest and select. What happens when you're able to take the buyer out and show them, I know what they asked for. Maybe we don't have what they asked for, but maybe we'll have what they'll buy, right? We teach you that in the playbook, how to help them land on the right car. What happens when you do with that with excellence? What happens when you shortcut? How about explore? Some of you might remember this as they called it the walk around step, which is ridiculous. We use the 6 position walk around, but really we use the 6 position walk around to explore the car. How does this car make your life better? That's what we're all about. What happens when you do that with excellence? What happens when you shortcut? How do these things affect your ability to close? How about the value story? Oh my gosh, most buyers don't even know that most manufacturers did away with MSRP and have a new pricing model called total vehicle price or total price. They don't know that we shrunk the margins. They don't understand internet pricing on used cars. How does telling the value story help you? And what if you shortcut it or leave it off completely? How does that hurt you? How about the test drive? Today, so many people are, take for a drive while I praise your car. Wrong. How does the test drive build mental ownership when you do it properly, and when you shortcut it, what could it be costing you? And how about the trial close? This is critical. In the playbook, we teach the velvet hammer, the most powerful closing tool available. That trial close is where we first get the buyer to say, I'll take it. And our soft trial close is so comfortable and so powerful. When we use it with excellence, how does it help you close? And when you shortcut it, what effect does that have on your ability to close? First pencil, win-win, right? And then, of course, there's the dealership tour. This is a step that all the manufacturers have told us forever. Take them to service after you work numbers. How ridiculous can that be? Before you sit down to finalize numbers, always tell them how you've got their back after the sale. In other words, you're not just trying to get a commission today, you want a customer for life. You should let them know that before you present numbers. So if you do that with excellence, how does it help you? When you shortcut it, how does it hurt you? The agree step, presenting the numbers well, asking for the signature, overcoming objection. How prepared are you to do that? By the way, this training is all about the agree step, presenting those deals, overcoming the price objection, first pencil closing, and negotiating a win-win agreement if we can't first pencil close. So if we do that with excellence, how does that affect your career? How does a perfect delivery affect your career and your referral and repeat buyers? And how does sold follow-up affect your ability to sell more cars, your ability to get referral and repeat buyers? What happens when we do that with excellence, and what happens when we short? Can I tell you something? Nothing great is free. Everything has a price. Now, here's the cool thing. This is so simple. It's just not easy because our human nature is to what? To go too fast and shortcut. And I think you'll believe that slow is fast when it comes to dealing with people. Now, this process we laid out actually shortens the time it takes to make the sale, doesn't lengthen it. When you do the things well, you move the time to where it belongs instead of in the negotiating where it doesn't belong. The longer you negotiate, the less you make. It doesn't make any sense. Listen, we're going to give our buyer a new experience. We know our buyer's thinking is going to drive their action, and our experience that we give them is going to help them change their thinking. And when their thinking changes, their actions change, and they're more likely to say yes to your first pencil.